First, start off by telling me your name and your practice and what do you do? And how did you get into it?
Okay, so my name is Wendy Sebastian. I'm a colon hydrotherapist and nutritionist. How I got into it, it's kind of a long story, but I had struggled with an eating disorder, and as a result of that, I got into working out and studying nutrition, and I got into various different diet modalities. I got into raw foodism. I studied every different diet under the sun. I think a lot of us that have eating disorders, we try to do the Rubik's Cube of different dietings. Like I'm gonna try the paleo diet or this diet or this diet. And I really adhered to the raw food diet, and then naturally I started working at Whole Foods, and just through education and different formulas, I really struggled with digestion. I also got into fitness competing, and I thought maybe that was another way to control my food, and what I ended up doing was doing a lot more harm to my digestive tract. And even with nutrition and eating well, I still couldn't get proper digestion going on, and basically I really struggled with that. And once my coach asked me to go ahead, and I was getting ready to go to nationals for figure competing, and basically, to make a long story short, he asked me to do a colon hydrotherapy session, and I was alarmed about what I saw, and basically I fell in love with colon hydrotherapy, and at that time I decided to continue on education, and decided that I wanted to go to become a colon hydrotherapist and continue my education with nutrition, and that's kind of where I came to today.
Did the colon hydrotherapy help you overcome your eating disorder, or how did that work? How did you overcome your eating disorder?
Yeah, that's an interesting concept there. There's my eating disorder was pretty severe. So in high school, I was actually hospitalized most of my high school years in Stanford. I had 2 minor heart attacks. So if anything I ever did in my life, I did it to extremes, right? So even...
So was the eating disorder causing the heart attacks?
Yes.
Such underweight that it was actually after heart?
Yeah. So... every time I would get back out, I'd get readmitted back in. And so I kind of went through several bouts with it. So when I turned 18, I had this desire to get healthy. And so I found some solution with that, with working out, and I had basically a trainer that basically told me, he's like, hey, I want you to trust me. I'm going to teach you about diet and nutrition. And I remember my first fitness magazine, there was an article on me about overcoming bulimia and anorexia. And so I naturally adhered to diet and nutrition, right? But I think a lot of times we think if we do all these things to eat for our outsides, that's going to solve the psycho and social aspects of what's going on within us, right? But we don't learn to connect with ourselves and food. We don't learn how to mindfully eat. We don't really learn about the content of our food and what it does and how to heal our bodies. So that worked for a while. But what happened was I became, a lot of people that overeat can understand this. I started to control my food in a different way. So it worked for a while, and then I started to develop this thing called binge eating. And so I became such a controller of food, and then I naturally adhered to competing. So as long as I was on with a specific, meal plan, and then as soon as I stopped competing, then I didn't know how to eat. And then I would binge eat. And this is so common amongst competitors today. They can eat while they're on, but as soon as they get off, they don't know how to eat. They don't even know how to be social. And so what happened for me was I would eat this rigid meal plan, get super lean and look super amazing on the outside, but then I started crossing those invisible lines that I told myself I would never cross. And then I would go out and eat this crazy amount of food and end up throwing up, and basically everybody thought I just looked amazing on the outside. And the truth was I was number 7th at nationals, and I did look amazing, but I was dying on the inside, and emotionally I felt like I was fraudulent. I just felt like a hypocrite in my own skin. And so basically what happened was, I tried different modalities of dieting. Like, okay, well, maybe if I tried this diet, I won't do the throwing up. And maybe if I do this, I won't do the throwing up. And I, at the end of the day, I just felt alone. So food became my best friend, right? And I became isolated, alone, to the point where I couldn't even have a relationship with, a partner, because I was so embarrassed that they would see what I would be doing. Does that make sense? So people ask so I had all these guys coming at me trying to have relationships, and I would do the dating part, but I would never get intimately involved because my intimate relationship was with food. So a lot of people don't realize, and this is an epidemic, so whether you're overweight or underweight, a lot of people don't even realize that there's even an issue with over exercising too. So, and I went that route too. So I think, and now I have what is called a RISE program with Refresh Your Soul, where we address the mind, body, spirit, right? Because I think that there's a disconnect with being in your body and how food relates to that. And even with colon hydrotherapy, a lot of people that are having dis-ease, it's because they're not in their body, and we have this overstressed society, and when they start to release, they also have an emotional release, and they don't realize that the reason why they're having some kind of digestive issue is because they're all tied up inside themselves, and they've been going, that they just aren't being mindful in their body.
Wow, yeah, and do you think that part of what's causing so many eating disorders is just the crappy quality of the food? Because if you're just getting all this food, because a lot of anorexics, they have an attitude that the food is gross in some way, and their mind could be telling some truth that the food is gross, right? And they're kind of repulsed by it.
I think too, and then they have some false education about food. So today in our culture, we're over sugar, over salted, right? And basically our taste buds are becoming addicted to these foods. And if you look at most of our foods, it's just full of chemicals, right? It's totally chemically built for our taste buds to become, and then you can see how it's basically affected our brain. Right? And there's just so many foods today where you look at you read the back of the label and you're like, what is this? Right? And how that affects our brain today, you can see today when it affects the hypothalamus and all the different serotonins, tryptophan. It's out of it. It's amazing. So
getting into health, let's talk about your book.
Yeah.
So tell us about that, and what's the name of it? What inspired it?
Yeah. So I did a retreat last year, and I've been in business for about 5 years, and what I could see across the board, well, first of all, let's back up. So I had my own digestive issues, right? And I got into colon hydrotherapy, and I was maybe having 2 bowel movements a week. And what I can tell you is I went back to school, and I started working really on the microbiota and the microbiome in myself, and I started getting some results. And today I have frequent bowel movements, and I never thought that would happen. That was not an expectation. That was a hope. It just kind of started to happen, and all those happened to basically decreasing stress in my life, becoming more mindful in my body, being aware that I have feelings and just allowing them to be present, not trying to fix that, and basically hosting an environment inside my body for the microbiota to grow. So there's a lot of things that break that down simply. And then understanding that it's a process, I didn't have a horrible digestive system overnight, that basically it takes just as much time to rebuild it as it does to damage it. Okay, so that was number one. Number two is that we have a medical system that doesn't support a healthy digestive system. They go to a medical profession, and basically their solution is to put a Band-Aid over it, not to help rebuild the microbiome in itself. And we have a huge epidemic with that right now.
And they're even doing things to destroy the microbiome.
Correct.
With antibiotics.
Correct. Right. And their solution is just give them more medication. Right. So I have I'm a very busy person right now. And so I did a retreat last year, and this last May. And what happened it was called Reconnect Your Soul, and it was a detox retreat. So we did juice and raw food. And what happened we got the people that were there were absolutely supposed to be there. We did meditation, we did yoga, and I basically prepared the food, and I did just like a teeny pamphlet of the cooked food that I made, and I showed them how to do it. Because a lot of people get overwhelmed with how to do food. It's too long, I can't do it, I'm a busy lifestyle, all this stuff. And I showed them how to do it in basically 10 minutes. I had my food hopper there, I just shredded it up, and I showed them how to do it, and they like were all into it. And basically I showed them how to put it in the fridge, and it could stay there for about 3 to 4 days, and how they could do it, and box it up and take it with them to work. And they were like blown away. So, and they loved the food, and it was amazing. It wasn't completely raw, it was about 80% raw. And so they totally loved it. And in a nutshell, I was like, this is it, because I'm repeating myself over and over and over and over again with my clients about how they need to incorporate some sacred rituals in their life. And this is how I've gotten to a place where I've healed my digestive system. So I talk about this all the time. So for me, it looks like I meditate a day, I do a juice a day, I exercise every day, I do a smoothie a day, I try to eat a mindful meal a day, and just make it real simple. Small behavior changes over a long period of time, right? And like these things help recreate and host a healthy environment for the microbiota. Some of my clients just don't even sit on the toilet every day, right? So if you're not having a bowel movement every day, how does your colon know when to go to the bathroom, right? Mm-hmm. So, start building these healthy behaviors, right?
A lot of those things you mentioned, they would like reduce stress. So you think the stress is what's partly causing constipation for a lot of people?
Yeah, so I did a whole, again, back to the retreat, I did a whole 2.5-hour discussion on that. So our stress is a huge proponent. It's about 70% about why we're having digestive issues today. So in our society, it's just gotten more and more and more. We're doing more and more and more to basically live the lifestyles that we're creating today. So we have to take a look at, what am I doing to create this lifestyle, and how is that affecting my health, right? And is my health important to me? And is this going to be sustainable, and how's that going to affect me in 10 to 20 years from now? And if I'm having health issues now, especially my digestive system, okay, basically, if this is not working, basically I'm not getting the vital nutrients that I need to get everywhere else in my body, and how is that going to affect me in 20 years from now? And so do I want to do something about that? And that's a choice. I'm not here to tell you what you need to do, but I'm here to give you some education to allow you to make the choices that may affect you in the future.
So what's like the best, let's get into the diet part of this. Like, what's the diet for healing the colon? And what's the best diet? Because I've heard things like bone broth is healing for the colon.
Sure.
Just different, there's a lot of different theories out there.
So, there is a lot of different theories out there, and what I can tell you is only my experience and what I've done. So usually I want to break it down to basic, right? So when I first started doing colon hydrotherapy, I was an avid raw foodist, and what I can tell you is that I had to break away from that for the first little bit. I had to go straight to some cooked food at first, and then so basically I went to like basic simple steamed vegetables, some sweet potatoes, real soft, and kept that real basic for a period of time, some smoothies and some juice, okay, and some really good healthy probiotics all the time, and kept it real basic, right? And stayed away from foods that anytime I had any kind of flare-up, bloating, or digestive issues, and kept it real basic for a long period of time. So basically 3 to 6 months. And once I did that for a period of time, and smoothies and juices are a little bit different because juices don't have any fiber in it. Smoothies, you can kind of blend it up, right? But again, some people even have issues with that. But we really want to be mindful of getting a really good probiotic in there and rebuilding that bacteria. Now, after that 3 to 6 months, then we want to start incorporating raw food regularly again. And then basically, if you don't have any issues with that, intermittently, one meal isolated at a time. And then once that starts coming back in, then we want to start reincorporating that back in regularly.
Were you ever like diagnosed with anything like irritable bowel syndrome and anything with the bowels? Or
No,
it's
I had
just
I had
constipation?
chronic constipation, and I think a lot of that again has to do with stress and stuff like that. So a lot of my clients, when they come in, they have what is called IBS, which is the new diagnosis. And when you go and talk to any doctor and ask them what causes IBS, because I do work with some GI doctors, they basically say it's caused by stress. So in constipation, you ask them same thing. But when we look at constipation under technical scientific terms, we look at the peristalsis, which is the muscle that pushes the fecal matter around. And some people, they say, we wonder if they're born that way with this just like a slow peristalsis, or if they, for me, I believe that it was what we call a lazy colon, which is a result of overuse of laxatives, right? Because doctors will give you laxatives, which becomes habit forming, right? Which is a popular thing to do. Is like you'll take the smooth move tea, dieter's tea, all these different formulas. Well, what happens is if you do anything for that muscle, it's going to become lazy and it has muscle memory. And so now what happens is it goes, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to sit here and relax and allow it to do it for me, because now I know something else is going to do my job for it. The cool thing about colon hydrotherapy is that now it actually strengthens the colon. So basically the only thing that will increase the peristaltic action, it's like going to the gym. So, because you can feel the resistance against the muscle. So that's why I've actually been able to get my bowel movements back, is because I was consistent like going to the gym. You can't go into the gym in January and expect to look like a bodybuilder in February. But if you do it consistently over a long period of time, in 6 months to a year, you're going to start to see some nice muscles on your body.
So what you're saying is people won't become habituated to colon hydrotherapy, and they won't become addicted to it, where if they were stopped, they won't get like extra constipated or something.
No, but you will increase your transit time, because you will strengthen that muscle inside the colon. So it's actually, and that's the difference. People ask me, what's the difference between enemas and colon hydrotherapy? So enemas, we actually see under ultrasound, will actually weaken the rectal muscle because there isn't any resistance. You don't feel the pressure. Okay, where with colon hydrotherapy, you feel the resistance, it actually strengthens the muscle. You're doing a workout.
So it increases the transit time, so there'd be more opportunity for your body to suck all the nutrients out of the food. Is that what you're saying?
No, well, sure, yeah, that's true, but it will actually strengthen your colon, your peristaltic action. So you will strengthen your muscle inside there to push the fecal matter around. So people that have chronic constipation, we see that they have a slower transit time. So what a transit time is the time when you put your food in and the time that the fecal matter comes out. So it's not uncommon for a person that's having a bowel movement, 2 or 3 times a week, to have a transit time of 4 days. I'll put eat, and then they won't, if they eat a beet, it'll take them 4 days for it to come out on the toilet. So if they start seeing me and they start coming in regularly and working with me regularly, let's say in 4 months, that might come down to 2 days. Does that make sense? Versus when we see enemas, which are great, and that's preferred to see me in between time versus any other methodology of trying to get fecal matter out of the body. But basically, we don't see it actually strengthen the peristaltic action. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
What are the most constipating foods, would you say? Because I've heard dairy, like cheese, really constipates you.
It does.
And gluten. For a lot of people who are sensitive to gluten, it constipates them.
Yeah, if you actually have a gluten allergy, we actually see that having a constipating effect. And actually, so with celiac disease, we see even worse issues going on with that. And sometimes even if you don't pre-soak your nuts or activate the enzymes, they can be super constipating too. All dough, bread, white bread. If it's doughy going in, I mean, can you imagine what that does? Yeah.
And on the flip side, what are the foods that if someone is constipated, they can really just help move things along? What would be those foods?
That's a great
I'm guessing fruit would be one.
Sometimes fruit, it just depends. Sometimes fruit can fermentate in the gut. So we want to be mindful of what fruits that we eat. Like a lot of people think apples would be great, but actually we see that apples fermentate and cause some gas and stuff inside there. So actually a really great one is sweet potatoes, believe it or not. Yeah. So, some vegetables are really good for the colon. So you want to have a good combination between soluble and insoluble fiber. If you don't have that good combination, what will happen is some people that all they eat is vegetables, and what happens is they're like, all I'm eating is vegetables, and actually that we see that actually slow down the transit time. So it actually will slow it down. Though you actually have too high of fiber content of one. So we have to have the combination, and actually the combination will actually fermentate together in a healthy way to support the microbiome, and actually that will help release short chain fatty acids out into the body. So yeah.
Wow, and prebiotics are important too, right?
Absolutely.
The fibers that feed your bacteria. So what are some of those?
Onions, bananas, things like that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So.
And a lot of people are doing these low carb diets.
Yeah.
Would that be a bad thing for their colon because they're giving up certain prebiotics, right? Because if they're just eating a lot of fat and not eating any fruits and things, maybe the bacteria would starve to death in their colon or something?
Yeah, so I am not I have to really be mindful about this because sometimes I can really, I'm not a fan of the keto diet, or I've actually had, so I've had a huge abundance of people coming in, and all of a sudden, and it's almost hilarious because, they'll be coming in for their regular maintenance, because our thing is if you take care of your colon hygiene, like your dental hygiene, and all of a sudden they're like, I've lost like 5 pounds. And anybody that removes carbohydrates out of there, it's just water weight, you're going to flex 3 to 5 pounds, no problem. I mean, if you understand glycolysis and basically how it works within the body. But what happens is they come on my colonic table, but I haven't pooped in like 5 days. And I'm like, oh, okay. So what's going on? Nevertheless, as they've started the new fad diet, which is a ketogenic, and I can't even, I've done that. I've lived that life, but back then it was called the Atkins diet, right? Mm-hmm. So, and I just kind of chuckled to myself. I'm like, so how's that working for you, So what happens is and nevertheless, they're highly constipated, and sometimes we have to go through our own life experiences to learn what works for us, and I just allow them to find their own truths, right? So they come on the table, they're highly constipated, and it's highly beneficial because there's a peering glass and you can see exactly what comes out of you, right? And you can see the unhealthy bacteria just start to formulate, because when that highly high, and they're eating high unhealthy fats, high protein, and you can start to see the unhealthy fermentation of the unhealthy bacteria within weeks. It's really unhealthy for the body. You have to understand, it's very simple. I think at the end of the day, we all really know what to do, right? Eat from the earth, right? We intuitively know, like, green, vibrant, the rainbow color of food, right, is what's really healthy for our bodies.
Yeah. I agree. And do you ever find any parasites when you're doing your colon hygiene? Do you ever get like weird? What's the weirdest stuff you've seen? Sure,
you can't work in this business and not, right? I will never forget. It was an Asian man, and I believe he's not originally from this country. And I was appalled. Yeah, there was like a whole school of funny looking organisms, going through the peering glass. Yeah, it was.
How common is that?
So I think a lot of people, it's not, we live in the United States, so it's not as common as one would think, but, I do see them come through. I've had several clients that I've had to go through parasite cleanses, and, the truth is that, parasites, if they're not worms, are microscopic, and I think a lot of times if we have an over gassy digestive tract, that's something that I just encourage my clients to do, because I don't have a microscope and I'm not going to take a slide. But if I go through several treatments with a client and they're still experiencing high levels of flatus in their digestive tract, it's just something that we can easily bump into. So, why not go ahead and do it? It's not harmful to us. Let's just go ahead and go through a parasite cleanse and,
If you do find parasites in somebody, do you have a specific anti-parasite protocol? What would you do for them?
There's a couple of different things that I basically, through Advanced Naturals, it's a colon hydrotherapy company that I work with, that they have basically a detox program that we go ahead and do. And we have several different detox programs, but our 30-day program, we that's part of it. So if you want to just go ahead and cleanse out their entire body and start anew, some of my clients come in and they're just really not feeling, they want to, they've been eating all kinds of fast food, junk food, and they want to turn their life over and start fresh. So they want to do a full 30-day program, and we incorporate that in it.
So what are some of the best supplements for the colon? I heard magnesium is so important, natural colon is a lot of people supplement people take for their bowels.
Yeah, so a lot of the times we, back in the day, we used to be able to get, a lot of minerals from our soil, and our soil is not what it used to be. So we really encourage our clients to do magnesium. Basically, that helps draw water to the colon, so we get a nice natural bowel movement. It's good for a lot of different reasons, but specifically for the colon, that's one of the great benefits. I also encourage my clients to obviously do a probiotic. Be rebuilding that healthy bacteria is so important.
Fermented foods too would work for that, right?
Sure. So fermented foods is definitely beneficial. When we look at, so this is kind of my thing right now with studying bacteria. We also see depending on the person's diet and how where their digestive tract is. I also encourage getting a probiotic that's in a special kind of capsule that is guaranteed to make it through the hydrochloric acid in the stomach, and will make it through the bile. Because depending on where our hydrochloric acid and if there's any other kind of food, it can melt bones, right?
I see. So you're saying if I had some sauerkraut, some raw sauerkraut, some pickles, you're saying the hydrochloric acid in my stomach could just kill all
certain
that
strands, right?
So some of it might get through,
right? And so in that particular situation, there's no protein in that, so basically the hydrochloric acid wouldn't need to rise to a certain level. However, with bifidas, and there's just certain strands that might be affected, right? So and some of my clients aren't as disciplined and aren't vegetarian, so and most of my clients are instructed to take their probiotic on an empty stomach in the morning, so obviously the hydrochloric acid wouldn't be as infected, but I do think a wide variety of probiotics throughout the day in their diet is beneficial.
Do you think a raw kefir would be a good source of probiotics? Is that one you would recommend?
Depending on the raw kefir and how it's made.
So what would be some of the...
So let me tell you, I experienced with making raw kefir up in northern Idaho, and so it's really hard to test the strands and how viable it is. And so right now what we know is bifida is the one that's proven to basically increase the transit time inside the colon. And the one that I was making up in Idaho, we weren't able to pull in that specific one. So we want to just make sure that, if you're really having digestive issues, just make sure the strands that you're getting in and the higher amount of bacteria. So for me, I was looking at cost effectiveness, and I wanted to make sure that I was also tested in my stool to make sure that I was getting it all the way down to my digestive tract. And so the ones that I have today are scientifically tested to do that.
I see.
So yes, but I absolutely think that if you want to incorporate probiotics in your life, more is better, so that's...
How about kombucha? Thoughts on kombucha? It's so popular.
It is so popular.
I love it myself.
It's so good.
Is that a good probiotic?
I also think that, again, that it's got a lot of sugar in it, and I think it's a great bubbly drink, and another way to incorporate probiotics in your life.
How about peanut butter? Is that a good food for you? How about peanut butter?
Well,
if it's organic?
It's a legume.
Oh, so you're against legumes?
I'm not a huge... they need to be soaked correctly and sprouted correctly. So I'm not saying that I'm against legumes. They just need to be done properly.
Is that because the phytic acid and the anti-nutrients?
Yeah, and they can really irritate the colon. So basically when we start looking at beans and basically how it's done, beans, musical fruit, why people fart and all that stuff around that, it can really irritate the colon. Also in the beginning basic stage, you want to be really mindful of legumes in the digestive tract. I can now eat legumes and not have an issue, but in the beginning stages for me, it was not a good situation. So
I'm sure grains are in the same category where you have to be careful about how you prepare them, right?
Right. So I'm now eating oatmeal or gluten-free oatmeal, and it actually is the combination of the soluble and non-soluble fibers, and it really actually helped my bowel movements. So, but again, like the rices. I don't think that is, actually that pilots use that to help keep them from going for 48 hours when they're up in the air, the fighter pilots. So it's kind of what supports digestive health, and what I would, it really kind of perplexed me and went against some of my belief system as a raw foodist at first. It really was hard for me. I felt like I was going against some of my moral beliefs. But at the end of the day, I had to listen to my body, and at the end of the day, I had to heal my gut and go to the bathroom. And now today, they align again. Does that make sense? But I had to be willing to go ahead and heal that gut again.
Absolutely. So being an expert on the colon and how to clean it, you've studied diet a lot. So how would you answer the question of veganism versus including animal products? What's the balance there? What's the most damaging animal products to the least damaging, or the most beneficial animal products to the least beneficial? What would you say on that spectrum?
That's a good question. So obviously there's actually science. So I like to use science to back up what I know holistically. So we know that 99% of people that eat red meat will end up with colorectal cancer.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Yeah. So and now I don't. If you eat it intermittently, maybe a really high quality grass-fed red meat, you get vitamin K, really good vitamin K and iron from it. So I'm not like here to tell my clients what they almost should do, but a high red meat diet, that is a statistic that we know to be true. So you can use that however you like, and I'll support you in whatever you choose to do, right? Right, yeah. So
and then there's like dairy. What about like butter? I heard butter's actually good for the colon because it has butyric acid. Butyric acid, am I saying that? You probably know that.
So
like lubricate things,
right. So I think that we all need a certain amount of omega-3, 6, and 9s, right? But anything in excess it's not good. So we want to be mindful about how much and where we get this, and even a good fish oil, as long as where we get those fish oils from, right? We have to be mindful of those.
The mercury?
I mean, be careful of the mercuries and things today, because we're doing a whole bunch of chelation detoxes here now. So, actually we work with a really good quality, krill and fish oil that has really shown a lot of benefits with digestive health currently. So, yeah.
Whoa, I didn't know.
Yeah.
So chelation though, how do you chelate people?
So right now I'm working with Dr. Godby's office, and basically he tests for all the heavy metals in the body, and he does a series of tests, and basically every week they come in for colon hydrotherapy. So it's kind of like a package that we do with them. So we really try, because we've seen all kinds of adverse effects with the heavy metals in the body. So yeah, that's basically depending on how many heavy metals and how severe it is. It can range between 30 and 90 days, the program.
Let's get into your book a little bit.
Okay.
So what inspired this idea for making this book?
Yeah, so like I said, it came back to that retreat idea, and basically when that packet came out, it was such a big hit, and so many people were just raving about it and emailing me as a response to what they got from the retreat. And then it just came to me, I'm like, man, I have so many recipes and so many different juices, and there's this thing called the poop and smoothie that I give almost to every client, and I have so many testimonials from that, people that have actually as a result that have incorporated into their life that have just been like, I now have a bowel movement every single day, you know? And so I was like, man, if I could hit a larger audience with this and share some things that they've actually, and so anecdotally, I continue to test these things with my clients and, you know, basically do what I tell them to do. And this has worked with this client and this client and this client. If I could hit a larger audience, then maybe, just maybe, I would be able to help more people that aren't just in here. So what happened was, is I sat down, I'm back in school again, and basically I sat down, I had a break in school, and literally once it came out of me, I couldn't stop writing. And it literally came together in 2 weeks, and it just came out, and I went on Microsoft Publisher, and I just started writing all these recipes that just, I have a section of just juice, a section of just basic that I was just talking about. If you have chronic digestive issues, I have a section with a lot of raw recipes that I've done in my past. And then I have a section of integrative recipes in between, you know, because I really want people to get, and then some really simple recipes, you know, that people, because they get overwhelmed, you know, and then how to kind of bridge the gap. And then smoothie recipes as well, you know, because I really have that. A juice a day, a smoothie a day, just really trying to get people to live that healthy lifestyle.
And what's the anti-constipation smoothie? Or is it poop and smoothie?
Poop in smoothie.
What's it called? A poop in smoothie?
Poop in smoothie. Yeah. So all my clients
can you give us a little teaser of what's in that smoothie, or do we have to get the book?
Yeah, I'll give you a little teaser about it. So it's got an avocado in it. It's got raw fiber, which is absolutely the best fiber. I swear, for constipation, I've tested them all, and I think everybody else that have, like, first of all, the whole theory, if you're doing psyllium husk, that just dams up your colon and dehydrates it out. Your colon, it's is supposed to, is where we hold our water for our entire body, and any other fiber I've found is just actually dehydrated the colon. So Garden of Life produces this product called raw fiber, and I found it to be absolutely the best product. So it's got raw fiber. It has a Refresh Your Soul greens in it, which is my product, and it's sea veggies. So it's actually really close to our blood plasma, and we have found that because of the minerals, our colon is basically absorbs our minerals, and it just really helps to heal that colon wall and the mucosa lining. It's absolutely amazing. So and basically I put spinach in that, and you can put any kind of protein powder that you want in it. I prefer to do a grass-fed isolate whey in there. There's several different, just makes it good and yummy. So it's what I do every night for dinner, because I get home at like 8 o'clock, but a lot of my clients do it first thing in the morning. So as a result, usually within a day or two, and these are clients that are highly constipated. I mean, that maybe have a couple of bowel movements a week. They've come back to me and they're like, oh my gosh, I've started having a bowel movement every single day. So it was a huge, I created it when I was going through my transition of trying to get frequent bowel movements, and I accidentally shared it with, it was a client of mine's like, well, what do I do? And I'm struggling, and I shared it with a client. She had the same results as me, and I just started sharing it with my clients regularly, and miraculously across the board, it just started happening like that. And so for me, it's just about paying it forward. You know, I think, why would I not share it at a larger scale with more people? So, and everything in there is about that, you know, and these are the things that I've done, and each one of the different diet things that I've tried, and foods that have worked for me, and that I incorporate in my life. I just felt like it was time to share it at a larger scale, and mainly because I have a lot of clients, and I feel that they could use a little bit more than what they're getting. So
sounds like a wonderful book that's going to help a lot of people. And what's the book called?
It's called Refresh Your Soul, Digest Health. So we, if you're into ebooks, we have it available now on our website for a pre-release price of $14.99. After Thanksgiving, it'll be $19.99. And then we will actually have the hardcover available here for $29.99. We're doing also a pre-order now for $24.99. So
links will be in the description.
Yeah.
But people are constipated, a lot of them will go to the health food store and look for these anti-constipation herb formulas, right? And tell us about maybe some of the dangers and precautions people should take, because aren't there some of these formulas that have certain herbs you wouldn't want to take that you could become habituated to, like senna, I heard, is like one of those herbs. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, I'm really grateful that you're bringing this up, because even some colon hydrotherapists, and I'm probably going to get bashed out there, and that's okay. I did an externship with a colon hydrotherapist, and she was selling this stuff, and to me it was just like, she should know better, right? These things are, in emergency situation, if you're traveling and you haven't had a bowel movement, I get that you might go to a health food store. It's better to get this stuff out than in. You don't want the stuff to remain toxic in your body. But a lot of these colon hydrotherapists or even people will go to the health food store and recommend that you take this stuff. If you're in a jam and you need to get some fecal matter, or you're highly constipated out of your body, I would recommend going and getting doing an enema. Get that out of your body. So I'm going to talk about senna, even cascarata, sagrada. These things will basically become habit forming, and basically, just like I was talking about, will weaken your peristalsis. Pick up the phone, find a local colon hydrotherapist, let them know that you're in, an extreme situation and you would like some help, and most of them will, including myself, will try to get you in. And again, like, I get it, sometimes we're traveling and, a one-time use is not going to have that much of an effect. But a lot of people are living off these things because they don't know any better, and they think that this is the way to live. And if you feel your body, those things make you feel ill, they make you feel icky. If you're having a spastic colon as a result of this, you should not be having cold sweats, feeling icky. And if we need anything to, and we live on it dependently, we have to ask ourselves, is this normal? Is this what we're supposed to be doing? And that's what I asked myself. It was like, I was taking 3 to 4 of those things a day, and I had to ask myself, like, this, I don't want to be dependent upon anything, right? And I had to slowly wean myself off of it. It's just like a drug, right? And finally I got to a place where I was having, bowel movements, but it took me a long time because I had been living off those things all my life. And, my mom, it's part of it is because that's what I was taught. My mom had been, doing that her whole life. And amazing enough, my mom is now my client and she's no longer on those things. But unless we know different, how do we know what the solution is?
Absolutely. So this is the big question. What do you think about coffee enemas? I hear so many people love them. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I think that, so it's part of the Gerson protocol, if you know anything about Gerson. I actually done a lot of interesting research on it. So basically the glynothioin is used as a master cleanser for the liver. I think that it has a lot of beneficial value, if that's something that you enjoy doing in your life. But again, you want to be mindful of the enema in itself. If you do I saw some YouTube videos about people doing it like 10 times a day, and their protocol and what they're doing. If you're doing the Gerson therapy because you have cancer, I absolutely support you in whatever you choose to do, right? But if you're doing it as a lifestyle, I support you in whatever you choose. But they have to have a doctor's prescription. Yeah, so we work with Dr. Godby, and other doctors to make sure that they have our prescription before we do any kind of implant.
Infusion.
Yes.
And?
Like ozone. Have you ever thought about doing like ozonated water?
Yes, yeah. Actually, we're looking into doing that because currently we only do just filtered water. We have 4 filters on the machine, and the way it works is by infusing water into the colon, all right, and it hydrates impacted fecal matter, and depending on how hydrated the colon is, it will start to release right away. But some people are very dehydrated in there, and sometimes it takes a whole session for them to start to release. You have to think about it like a trash compactor, right? So if you're taking out the garbage every day, it'll start to release right away. But if a person isn't taking out the garbage every day, it's going to be very impacted in there, and flushes of water to get that to hydrate, to get it to start to release. So it's very interesting for me. I'm honored that somebody will allow me to be present while they go through their process of detox, because it's very personal in there, you know, and it's not only physical, but it's an emotional release, right? So, yeah.
One of the most fascinating things I find about the colon is the villi. You know, the little villi that absorb the nutrients?
That's in the small intestine.
Yeah, so does constipation affect the health of those villi? Does it like damage them? Do you know anything about that? Because I know like gluten can damage the villi, you know, especially in celiacs, but like I just wonder if being constipated, all that backed up feces and the bacteria can actually damage those villi, because that could be huge. Like,
that's a great question.
Constipation might have like long-term like effects that like even after you're cleared, the damage of the villi, maybe I'm just thinking maybe that affects it.
Well, let me answer it like this. So if somebody is highly impacted, you have to look at how they got highly impacted. So inadvertently, yes, because the colon is a separate so basically you have the small intestines and then the large intestine. So basically the villi and the basically microvilli are in the small intestines. But basically if they are impacted in the large intestine, usually they're doing something that will basically what they're eating is affecting that to be impacted in the large intestine. Therefore, basically, yes, then their small intestine is infected as well. Now, 85% of their bacteria is in their large intestine. Now, so we also know that about 15 to 25% of the bacteria is in their small intestine. So if their large intestine is compromised, meaning their small bacteria, then basically about 25% usually is also compromised in their small intestine. And that means you have dysbiosis, overgrowth of the unhealthy bacteria. And this is what we're seeing right now with like SIBO and huge people having huge digestive issues in the small intestine. So effectively, yes, that is what's going on in the small intestine, and that's why you see people having horrible basically digestive issues in the small intestine. Now what we also see too is that what they know is that basically we are actually hosts of the bacteria in itself, because there's more bacteria than there is actual cells in our body. So what we know too, I'm going to give you an example of this. This is really great information, is that our bacteria is actually responsible for our digestion, our immunity, and our metabolism. So what we see now is like, I'm going to give you an example. There's two rats and they're both eating a really high fat diet. There's one that is compromised, meaning it's bacteria. What had happened is the compromised one became obese. The non-compromised one did not. So basically what happened is they took the fecal matter from this rat and they put it in the non-fat or the non-obese one, and this one became obese as well. So what we see is basically people's body composition is a lot to do with their healthy bacteria.
I've heard about that. The people who get fecal transplants from obese people, they become more likely to become obese and they become fat because they had the bacteria from a fat person. It's making them fat.
And the other way around, we see basically if you put a thin statured person into an obese person, we see them actually coming, and this is going to be the new wave of weight loss, right? We see them becoming more thin statured.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's what I tell my clients. Everything comes down to bacteria, stress levels, and basically how you're hosting that environment. So if you're really take it from the inside out, where could your whole life in digestion be, and your body composition will follow in that. I mean, I never thought that I would be eating the way I do today and my body being taken care of, because you see people in the gym like stressing it out, working it out, and I was one of those too. And I'm not going to tell you that I don't work out every day and that I don't, but I've found my balance with being mindful around those sacred rituals, right? And the more I take care of myself and eat a more balanced diet and find balance in my life, my body just kind of follows in that. And that is a result of taking care of that healthy bacteria. When I thought it was the other way around, where I got to look good on the outside and eat for the outside.
That's a really good perspective there. So maybe the secret to anti-aging is to go to a centenarian, all the super centenarians, and get fecal transplants from the centenarians, because they have the right bacteria that's making them live so long.
Or we'll just come to you and ask you for your poop.
Yeah. if I end up succeeding in my goal of living forever.
Yeah, right.
For sure, that'll be important.
Right.
Now, a lot of people with Lyme disease, they get coffee enemas. They say it's like the thing that totally helps them. Do you get anyone with Lyme disease coming in to getting
Yes.
does that help people with Lyme disease? Getting a therapy session?
Yes. So I deal with a lot of people that have various different diseases, so, again, whatever your illness is, I think colon hydrotherapy, getting the toxins out of the body absolutely gives your body a fighting chance to be able to deal with that effectively, right? So if we can keep the liver, the cleaner the liver is, the cleaner the colon is, the better your body has a natural chance to fight whatever's going on inside of it.
Now, what do you think about the rubber tire that people talk about? They say you have this black rubber tire and in your colon, right, from all the crud that gets stuck to the inside of your colon. Is that true, or is that a myth? Because I've heard that sometimes people like
the mucosal plaque.
Yeah, the mucosal plaque. And what is that? Is that true? You would know.
Right.
Have you seen it? Have you seen the mucoid plaque come out?
The mucoid plaque. Yeah. So what happens as a result of permeation through the colon walls, right, of the mucosal lining, and basically what happens is if you don't over a period of time of not taking care of your colon hygiene, like your dental hygiene, basically what happens is it will permeate through your colon walls. So yeah, but everybody is different, right? So some people have more constipation or buildup in their body than other people do. So it's just like people that haven't taken care of their health, people that have taken care of their health more of their life. Let's say you've eaten well most of your life. You may have less buildup than somebody who has not done that well.
Mm-hmm. So we hear a lot about magnesium for the colon, but is there any other specific minerals that are like really needed by the colon? Because all I hear about is magnesium. Is there any
All of them are needed.
All of them are needed.
All of them are needed. Okay, just people, obviously, the reason why magnesium is such a big thing is because people that have constipation, that's what they go to. It helps aid them in basically releasing.
As far as like anti-aging, do you see any possible benefits from colon hydrotherapy from an anti-aging perspective? Is it going to make people live longer? How much life do you think they could potentially add on to their life?
Yeah, so I absolutely do. So that's a great question. So I'm going to talk about myself, and then I'm going to talk about another client. So for me, so I'm 39 years old, and if you compare my picture to back when I was 30 years old, I actually look way younger now, and I've been doing colon hydrotherapy regularly, weekly, for almost 5.5, 6 years.
Whoa.
Yeah, like you can put my pictures side by side, and if you want, I can send you a picture, because it's crazy. And people tell me it all the time, right? And
because they say health starts from the colon.
Right, and everything.
So aging, everything, it's all related.
And I had adult acne, right? And so if you have like adult acne, any kind of adult skin issues, all of that, it all comes from your basically absorption level, right? And what you're putting in your body. So, and do you have any kind of permeability issue? Do you have any kind of, basically, are you able to absorb your nutrients, right? And then we look at the microvilla and the villa inside the digestive tract, and the cleaner that is, and the way we're able to absorb our nutrients has everything to do with basically our skin and how vibrant we are, and our stress. So, I have a client that's been with me 2.5, 3 years. He came to me with late stage level 4 cancer. Okay. He started off completely doing an all-natural approach. And he got really too thin. And then he started doing a chemotherapy approach. Almost died. Then he started doing a combination of chemotherapy and healthy eating, healthy juicing, and now he's doing one chemotherapy a month, seeing me 3 times a week with colon hydrotherapy, juicing and eating pretty much from the earth. I'd say he's about 60% 60% raw because he's doing juicing and smoothies and maybe one cooked meal. He is now stage level 1. He went from looking like he was about 90 years old to about 60 years old. Okay. And his health, he's out skipping around like an amazing. So, and he was on, and now I'll just be honest, he was on morphine and Norcos, and he is now on CBD.
I love CBD.
Yeah.
CBD.
Right? And he's a completely changed man. So, and if you look at his pictures before it all happened, he looks younger than he did even before it all happened.
Wow.
Right. And so, yeah, and so part of his protocol is, we talk about this all the time, is cleansing out his body so his body can fight for itself. And he incorporates coffee enemas with me 3 times a week. So, and his thought, so bringing in the whole coffee enema thing. So yes, I'm an absolute advocate towards it, but I'm incorporating with colon hydrotherapy as to build and strengthen the peristalsis wall. So that's my philosophy on that.
On the subject of aging, how long would you like to live for? Or even like if you could live forever, would you want to? If you would be healthy and young forever, would you want to?
I'm okay whenever my time is. I feel like I finally have come in. I really struggled in my younger years, and this is my honest answer. Like, I'm ready to go whenever God wants me to go. I feel like I'm finally aligned with what my Creator has wanted me to do, and I feel like I'm doing God's work now. And if He feels like I'm ready to go, and I'm ready to go, but I feel like I have a lot more work to do, and I'm still learning. And I look at it like this: I'm going to continue to learn, and maybe what I'm learning today will be outdated tomorrow, right? And I'm a sponge right now, and I just continue to share what I've learned with others.
What do you think of like the upper limits of human lifespan? You think if someone's like eating as healthy as possible, has the cleanest colon, how long do you think someone could live for?
Oh, I think like at least 120. Seriously, today we're like going there. Like, I think if we continue to nourish our body and give our sustenance what we require, and again, be mindful of the stress. I think the stress is what's killing us, really. And that kills a healthy bacteria, and then it's that combination between the stress and the food and all that, I think if we're able to really be creators and then be mindful of the energy, the gas that we put in our body, and that dis-ease, right? Mind, body, and spirit, right? Are we able to nourish ourselves?
And think about this: if we live to be 120, what other things are we going to figure out by that time that make us live even longer?
Right.
We could figure out something that makes us live 200 and then 300 and then 1,000 years, and then there's just like no limits almost.
Right.
So, what else was I going to ask?
But you gotta stick around for that.
Yeah, we got to stick around.
Right.
We got to be there, so we got to at
Take
least
care of yourself.
Yeah. So important.
Yeah.
What chronic illnesses may be affected by constipation? Say, for instance, I hear that a lot of people with like chronic migraines, if they just go for a colon hydrotherapy session, their migraines will suddenly go away. Or I'm just thinking, what other types of chronic illnesses might be affected by constipation, do you think?
That's a really, really good question. So I actually had a client that came in with chronic migraines, and she does a combination between colon hydrotherapy and chiropractic, and with that she's able to pretty much manage them. You have to understand that the colon is like the second brain, and we know now today there's a synapse or a vagus nerve that goes straight up to the brain, and so basically what happens is that affects the hypothalamus, and I'm going to get a little sciencey on you now, and it goes down to the adrenal gland cortex. But basically what happens is we actually see how that affects basically all central nervous systems and even diseases up there. But what happens is that vagus nerve, so basically the endocrine glands, all that stuff just basically comes right up to the brain, and actually we now know that that is actually it goes from the colon to the brain, not the other way around. So if somebody's having a lot of headaches, any kind of
brain fog,
depression, we see actually eating disorders, alcoholism, a lot of that stuff, and I'm not saying this is what their hypothesis is, that basically all that stuff stems from dirty colon. Right? So, and I think in other cultures, so I lived in Germany, there wasn't so much divide between Eastern medicine and Western medicine. That wasn't even a term, right? You basically had a medical card, it was socialized healthcare, and basically what you did is you would make a colon hydrotherapy appointment and you would go take your card in. It was just part of the culture, it's just what you did. And I remember going to the doctor in Germany, and the first thing that they did was they looked at your vitamins, and they would give you vitamins before they even would consider medication. It was just a different way of living. I'm going to come back to your question. So any kind of psoriasis, chronic illnesses, I've had people, lots of cancer clients, ton of cancer clients. I have various diabetes clients, people that are really trying to change their lives, that are coronary heart diseases, anything that you can think of, I pretty much have seen it and worked with it. And most of my clients come in on the colon hydrotherapy side, and they usually get maintenance of that, and then they step into my Rise Nutrition program. And we really try to cater to helping them build a healthy lifestyle and incorporating, basically sacred rituals, and trying to incorporate, some juice, some smoothies, some, healthy balance for them to build a practical, healthy lifestyle that they can sustain. I believe in sustainable, healthy lifestyles.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Sounds like a very good program.
So I'd say it's critical for any condition, like your chronic condition that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Physically.
Yeah, so this is my thing with colon hydrotherapy. I have a lot of athletes, like the UFC fighters, basketball players, and even guys that have regular bowel movements. A lot of people think that this is just for, people that are, have constipation or digestive issues. And I really want to hit home on this, that I have people that come in here that poop 4 times a day, that have no digestive issues. Why? Because they want to continue to live the lifestyle that they want to live, right? Again, if you took care of your colon hygiene like your dental hygiene, you wouldn't get digestive issues, you wouldn't get sick, you would continue to stay where you're at and age gracefully, right? And continue to absorb the nutrients that you were. And when you come into the contact with the environmental toxins and things like that, we would continue to flush it out. So this is what's happened as a result for me. So I used a ton of antibiotics when I was younger. I had dental issues as a result of eating and throwing up.
Were you breastfed?
I was not.
That's a huge thing, right?
Absolutely.
That probably contributes
Yeah,
to
I hadn't gone into that conversation yet. I was not naturally birthed, which is your first dose of antibiotics. I was not breastfed.
Probiotics.
Yep. And I had abused antibiotics, okay? So, as a result of doing colon hydrotherapy, I believe our bodies will continue to rebuild itself, right? But I never had that foundation, which is so essential. I have not been ill in 2 years at all. And I was around my nephews, and I took them to the emergency room on Christmas Eve. Like everybody's sick, fever, everything. My sister and the boys had the flu, and I did not get it because I have superbugs now. So what I'm telling you is you can rebuild those bacterias in there. Would I have had the bacteria that I probably would have if I had those things? Probably not. But I do have healthy bacteria in my gut today as a result of doing colon hydrotherapy, clearing out the unhealthy and rebuilding the new. And so this is what my clients today, even that do have regular bowel movements, they want to, who wants to be down sick? Who wants to not feel good? Who wants to not absorb their nutrients out of the food that they're getting? So they want to continue to be vibrant and free and enjoy their life at the utmost capacity that they can, especially with the toxins and the stuff going on in the world that we have today, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so so that's kind of where we're at today. I mean, I get where the world we live in. We don't have the soil that we used to. The vegetables aren't the same as we used to, and it's kind of like we have to accept that, right? So we do the best that we can with what we have.
And speaking, you were talking about absorbing nutrients. Now, a lot of people have weak stomach acid, so weak hydrochloric acid.
Mm-hmm.
Is that related to constipation? Like, if you have weak stomach acid, are you more likely to get constipated? Are those anyway connected?
That's a very good question. So yes, and yes. So, and that also affects digestion, right? So if you're not able to break down your food essentially, right, properly, right? So basically we have a whole set of people that aren't, then it affects the chain of events. So when our food goes from our stomach into our small intestine, our first one is our duodenum, then basically what happens is there is a signaling chain that happens in our small intestines that basically signals these enzymes and pancreatic enzymes to basically break down our food, so then it's absorbed into our small intestines, and then basically, but if that is not happening effectively, what happens is we see chunks of food non-digested in the colon, right? So, and there's things that we can do naturally to help with that, you know, apple cider vinegar, and you know, there's some supplementations that we can do with that, you know, obviously, you know, fresh squeezed juice and different things that we can do to help with, you know, the enzymes and things like that. But when that happens and it gets to a place where you have hydrochloric acid issues, like, and then it's chronic, yeah, that's a huge effect. And it's even gotten to a place now too, because of our food, where we see thyroid issues as a result of our food, because of the chemicals in our food. Like, it's across the board. The first thing I see with people that have chronic constipation is I know that they have a thyroid issue, because that regulates the bowel. So,
oh yeah, hypothyroidism would slow down the bowels, right?
Yeah, so Hashimoto's is a huge thing going on right now, and so, you know, and a lot of it has to do with, again, our chemicals in the food, and, you know, basically, and again, doing too much. We stress our own selves out, you know, so, you know.
And that raises cortisol, and does that slow down the bowel? Does cortisol affect the bowel?
Well, cortisol is overstressing the body. So yeah, so when we're overstressed, we're in fight and flight, so we're over in sympathetic versus parasympathetic, and basically when that happens, that paralyzes a peristalsis. So therefore, the colon is not moving, it's paralyzed. So yes, that does affect the bowel.
So if someone did have a weak stomach acid, what are some things they can do? I've heard eating lots of hot peppers increases the digestive fire and the stomach acid. What else would someone do? Betaine HCl, the
Yes.
supplement?
That's a great
That's a good
supplement.
one.
That's exactly what I would suggest.
Or just eat a bunch of beets, that could help.
I would say let's do some betaine.
Yeah.
That's actually in one of my cleanses. So I think that's a great supplement. Of course, yeah, I mean, I would try to go naturally, beet juice, something like that. But, you know, sometimes if you can get on betaine for a while, you can recreate it, kickstart it. Back when I was really struggling, I went on betaine for a while, and my acids are right back where it needs to be. And I think once we get our body re-regulated, sometimes our body can re-regulate itself, you know, and get back to the basics. Again, like, when we're overstressed, our body will react. And when we bring it back in and we're basically back to baseline again, our body will autocorrect. So again, how important is health to you, right?
That's the question.
Right? Do it. Let's cleanse you back out. Let's bring it back to basics.
Oh, what do you think about coffee? The trend of so many people into coffee, and they take coffee as a laxative. Like, the first thing they do, if they don't get their coffee, they're constipated. Like, is that a good thing? I've heard a lot of bad things against coffee. So,
So first of all, coffee can really affect the adrenal glands. Basically, too much of anything is not good. So, you know, I really try to be mindful of my clients and where we are in the world today. And it's a dehydrant. There's a lot of things that I have to say about coffee. I think a lot of my clients are over-caffeinated.
So it's interesting. It's good going up the colon, but it's bad.
It's a totally different kind of coffee. It's a different kind of coffee. However, I think we have to be mindful, right? I have to be mindful of where my clients are today, you know, and I think 1 cup of coffee is not going to set you up for a complete failure. If that's something you really enjoy and it minimizes your stress and it's something that you really, I don't want to take away those things, right? That give you that balance in life, right? And
I heard the lighter roast, the better.
Right. And if it's like an organic coffee and it's something that you enjoy and you socialize and gives you that joy in your life, I don't want to take that away from you, right?
Hot chocolate probably being healthier alternative.
Absolutely, a raw chocolate, raw cacao, you know. So
or cooked roasted chocolate or something.
Sure, but I think what happens is you know, a small cup of coffee turns into a venti cup of coffee, which turns into and it becomes an addiction, right? And then you're running on caffeine all day long. So and then you're dependent upon that. So I have to be mindful where my clients come from. Small changes over long periods of time, you know, and if that's something that gives you joy in your life, I'm not going to minimize that. If I can get you off of soda pop and McDonald's and that's the one thing that you enjoy, then I get it, right? So I think we have to kind of find that. So that's kind of my thing with that. But again, we have to be mindful of how much stress we put on the body, and that can be one of those things that puts stress on the body.
So, any other questions you would want me to ask you, and anything you would want to say?
No,
I haven't asked. I should have asked.
Right. No, I think we did a pretty complete job today. I just encourage people to go to our website, you know, wendysebastian.com. If you have any questions or if you have any digestion concerns or want to know more about digestive health or nutrition or metabolism, we would love to support you in that. I'm really grateful that you came out today. Thank you.
Good to be here. Thank you for the wonderful interview. Yes, this is awesome. Let's hope this helps a lot of people.
Yeah.
Go and get your colon cleaned.
Please.